Okay, so I've rolled out a slab and I've measured the height of the can. And I know that if you're at home and you're doing this, it might be difficult to get a slab this big rolled out. So if you want to do a smaller version of a can, that is fine. Okay, so I've cut out the piece and I've got this old vintage style steel soda can that I had collected when I was a young kid. So it's got some sentimental value to it, but I'm just going to wrap it around like that. Make sure that it's overlapped. Oops, so that it's overlapped like this. And then, since I don't want to cut my can, I'm going to take it out because I don't want to scratch up that nice paint job. Then all I'm going to do is make sure that it's overlapped like that. And then when you go to cut it, you're going to cut through both of these levels, both of these layers, and go straight down, as straight as you can, because this will allow those two pieces to meet up. So you see how I'm doing this? Now, I'm trying to go straight down. I don't know if I did exactly, but the thing is, and keep this piece of clay, this piece of slab here, or any leftover, because we need to do the tops and the bottom of the can. But when you do that, when you cut both at the same, then these two edges fit up just about perfect, just about. I mean, not exactly perfect, but this is looking pretty good. It looks like a pretty clean cut, and it looks like it's gonna fit back together really nicely. So you want to just let that set and start getting leather hard. Now this is already set for a while, so it's going to set up just fine. But I also need to score it, and I also need to make the top and the bottom. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take this extra piece of slab, and all I'm going to do is gently press to make the circle. Got off just a little bit, but I think I'm going to be okay. And then the top as well. Now it seems like the ones that I've already made for this, I've always cut this part too big. So these really, I'll end up cutting this down because this circle seems to be always be too small. So I'm going to cut these out now. Okay, so what I was mentioning earlier about the tops and the bottoms always being smaller, and that this is always bigger, I misjudge it quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recut this by overlapping it just a bit again and cutting back down just to make sure that it's going to wrap around it really nice. And so again, I'm going to try to cut straight down and through both layers like that, so that it still has a good connection right here. Still meets up really nice. But did I cut it the right size? Oh, it's close, but it still has some room. So I'm going to cut a little bit more off. See if this works. All right, so now I'm going to check it again. Looks like it's about the right size. Time to score and slip. Okay, so we got things scored. Now it's time to put the slippery slip on, which is going to be the glue that keeps it all together. So go ahead and just put a generous amount on there, on all the scratched areas, scored areas, I mean. And we're going to put this thing together. Now, the only way I've been able to figure out how to get this hole cut into the clay, which if you've got one of these vintage cans, that's great. If not, then just do your best at cutting out a teardrop or some sort of hole in the top. So what I did was I just pressed it into it. If you can see that, I don't know if you can, but it gives me a little template to go by, and then I'm just going to take my X-Acto cutting tool and I'm going to cut it out. So there we go on the opening. So now we can attach it. So once you've got it all slipped and scored, whoops, I'm making a mess here. You want to put one side on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap this around the bottom side so that it's on, and I'm gonna go ahead, press it, leaving this loose, leaving this side loose, but I'm gonna go ahead and press this. So I'm just barely pressing it down while holding on to it so that we'll have more of that realistic look of a steel can. Then I'm going to press it, make sure it's all fastened together. Looks like I pressed it a little too far, but that's okay. Then what I'm gonna do is do the same for the top, but what I'm doing is I'm just kind of pressing it together, but then leaving it a little bit loose at the top so that I can put this in. Now you'll want to be real careful because it might fall down in there. And so luckily I am able to pinch it on there. I didn't get it round enough, but I'm okay with that. So this can be real tricky, but I think if you handle it just right, you can get it all put together to where it'll look very similar to a vintage style soda can. I'm gonna put a little slip on there to get into that crack. Also, you wanna make sure that you hide the seam as good as you can. And I just take slip and kind of smooth it out, trying to move clay into that that seam there. And then, you know, just kind of clean it up as you go. Press it where it needs to go in, and you know, you're the sculptor. So make it work to your liking. And here we go. Looks like it's starting to take the shape. And put a little more slip in that corner right there. All right, this is looking good. I'm gonna turn it over and make sure that this is still connected. I might go ahead and add a little more slip on the bottom here, just because I like to. I'm gonna wipe it around. Yes, indeed. But this is how you make a soda can. When you're finished, be sure and take a picture and submit it into Canvas.